Hello and welcome to another edition of The Stew with JT Brew. We've got our hockey edition, the NHL Around the Ice. On this segment, we're going to bring you a new little segment we talked about. It's called 32 and 32. We're going to do a quick hitter episode, all 32 teams in 32 minutes, a little gambling, a little fantasy, a little real life hockey, just talking about a little bit of everything in there, rapid fire style. Stick with us. You're in The Stew.
You up on trades and why you move, you ain't designed to lose. Find you jumping over seemingly nothing, racking up points, makes the game a little more fun to watch. Can drop release, we started with the mock draft and now we making a mockery of the leaderboard. Quite obviously not a scrub, so start an institute, make evaluations like a commissioner do. It's to the point your wife make you watch in a different room. Update your roster and pick and choose when you get some news. Not much that we enjoy more than sipping brew, sifting through new statistics to make it to our end zones through different routes. Universities, institutes, down to homies who click in groups. I introduce you to the Stew with JT Brew.
Hey Toast, how you doing? Thanks for joining me. Another Wednesday night talking some hockey action.
Yeah, it doesn't get any better than this, JT. The only thing that can bring us down tonight is the fact that there's only 2 games in the NHL going on, and the third game got canceled. Blackhawks at Sabres because of the bad weather in Buffalo. But we'll pick up the pace for them tonight. We're gonna have a good show.
Yeah, you got a little Toast takes gambling out there tonight. Who you looking at tonight? What do you got going?
Yeah, with such a small slate, I decided to go ahead and do something I normally don't do. I did a 5-leg same game parlay, and I picked the Florida game versus Detroit. So the Wings are actually visiting Florida. Wings are short with Patrick Kane not in the lineup tonight. Florida's really been hot of late, so and especially guys like Reinhart and guys like Verhaeghe and stuff. So I decided to go ahead and go Sam Reinhart, anytime goal. Guess what? First goal scorer. We'll talk about Reinhart here in a bit.
Got it.
On fire. Kachuk, another guy, on fire as well with an assist. That's hit. I got the Panthers on the money line. That's looking good so far right now. They're up 2-1 going in the third, and they're going to be in a power play. I got Reinhart at 2.5 shots on goal. He's at 2. He's missed the goal like 3 times. I'm very confident he'll get there. And I need that Carter Verhaeghe assist. If that actually does, it'll hit at plus 625, and it'll be a good night.
Bam, that would be fantastic. Let's hope that hits. Let's just jump into it. The little news segment we talked about 32 and 32. We're going to go through every team. Little quick hitters here for you guys. So let's start off Anaheim Mighty Ducks.
Yeah, JT, 31 points this year for the Ducks, 4th worst in an AHL. Did get some news today that Leo Carlson's going to not be on load management anymore this season. They're going to go ahead and just, take the cuffs off, let him go ahead and have at it. And this would be normally a guy that would definitely be in a top 2 or 3 in the Calder Trophy, but you may see him actually come up in that because of Bedard's injury. And he's going to slide into a spot where Trevor Zegras usually has, but Zegras is injured. He's been often injured. His injury is going to keep him out for some time. And guys like Troy Terry and Rocco Gudis are actually picking up the pace. So Anaheim's doing what they're supposed to do. And honestly, they're rebuilding for the future, and I like their pieces.
Yeah, they got off to a little bit better start than we thought they would, but they've kind of settled back out, kind of where we thought they would end up this year. Nice to see Leo going to get back out there. Like you said, with Bedard going down with injury, might give him a chance to jump in there and kind of that rookie of the year. How about Arizona?
Yeah, 4 points from a playoff spot. Arizona's rounding out to be a pretty good team. This may not be their year this year, but man, they are trending in the right direction. We've talked about ad nauseum of their issues with their stadium, their issues with ownership, and so on. But man, they got some really nice pieces on the ice. They even got younger guys like Maselli and Jack McBain. Keller's doing what he's supposed to do. But the one player I actually want to just talk about briefly here, Connor Ingram and goalie. He has found a home, man. Ingram's been really, really good for Arizona. I believe he's in the top 12, 13 goalies in all fantasy scoring. He's a volume starter as well. And so that may be a guy that you can go out there and get off the waiver wire, especially in those the leagues that aren't that deep, maybe the 10-team leagues, and give Connor Ingram a chance. I mean, they don't really have anybody else that are leaning on him, and I really like what he's done.
Yeah, how about the Boston Bruins, a team that I've been able to jump on a few times or been winning like crazy, but it feels like they've been burning me on bets lately. What about where are the Bruins at right now?
We talked about it before the season started. JT, second best record in NHL. They're doing it with their culture, is what they're doing. We were concerned with all the losses they had in the offseason and the shuffling of the lines and the new faces, but they really haven't lost a beat. 61 points. Again, second best in AHL. Pass is doing what he normally does. He's getting close to 30 goals already. He's on pace for in the 50s, like he always does. Brad Marchand actually bounced back after starting the season off on a short IR stint after an offseason injury slash a surgery, and really he's having one of his best years. He's been fantastic. They're going with that two goalie tandem, and I really came out and actually picked the Vezina winner from last year, Linus Olmark. And honestly, that's kind of really been a mistake on one of my leagues because Jeremy Swayman's been every bit as good as Olmark, and if not better. And there's really a 50-50 timeshare going on right there. So those are the players I really want to talk about with Boston, but it really starts with those two guys, Pasta and Marchand. Zaka's getting a little bit of a benefit from that. But again, in the deepest of leagues, he would actually be a really, really good value pick to have. But in those shallow leagues where you only have 10 teams, you got to concentrate on getting one of those goalies.
Yeah, those goalies, I mean, it's hurting you in fantasy perspective, but man, I think that's going to help Boston long term for the season. The fact that they got two guys playing really well and there's no drop off from either guy. They've both been solid all season. How about the Buffalo Sabres? We know the weather's been awful up there lately. Like you said, the game canceled tonight. People have been no travel up there. It's been a mess. What about the Sabres unit?
A very disappointing season. 7 points from a playoff spot, but that doesn't seem like a whole lot of points. They got 5 teams in front of them. It's going to take a lot, if not a miracle, for them to make the playoffs. They've been dealing with injuries all year. Tage Thompson was out a heck of a long time. Tuck's actually been out for some time now. Skinner's actually on the IR. He's actually been out for a week and a half already. So it just seems like they're taking turns of their big guns getting injured, and they can't really catch a break. Their goaltending's not what they thought it would be, JT. Devin Levi and also Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, who's a young goalie. They really haven't been steady. They've been shaky at best. I do like UPL a little bit better than Levi. Levi's going to be their goalie for the long term. But the one guy on their team that's really tearing it up and actually has not missed a beat, and that's Rasmus Dahlin, one of your keepers in our home league. He may be having his best year he's ever had. And so where they would be with that Dahlin, I have no idea. They'd be a lot less than 7 points after a playoff spot.
Yeah, they just seem like a snake bitten team this year. It's just like everybody came in with high hopes, and it's just everything that can go wrong is going wrong for them. Dahlin, like you said, the one bright spot. He has just been fantastic. I know me and you talked about a trade in our home league with him. You wanted him from me. I couldn't let him go. He's just been so good. I was like, I got to keep him. I got to hold him. He's just been such a good defensive player. And not even that, but in fantasy wise, he has just been scoring points. He's been great as that number one defender. So I just couldn't give him up. But yeah, it seems like Buffalo just snake bitten this year. How about the Carolina Hurricanes?
Carolina's not what they used to be in years past. Carolina's actually done it with defense. They've done it with goaltending. They will just beat you to death between the blue lines and play that slow down game. And really, it hasn't been there for them this year. But given that, they're still in the top three in the Metro Division. They're in a playoff spot. They spent some time at the beginning of the season without Andrei Svechnikov, and when he's come back, man, he has been a ball of fire. Svechnikov and Aho, them two guys together have absolutely tore it up, and they're carrying the team. And despite the bad defensive play, Brent Burns has been a huge disappointment both on the ice and hockey as well as in fantasy, and their goaltending, which has always been a staple for them, man. It has been very, very shaky at best, and they're relying on a young goaltender by Protekov, and I believe he even has a minor injury at this time. But so things are a little bit different in Carolina. I don't expect them to do a whole lot come playoff time. I think it's going to take a lot for them to hold that spot if they continue to play like this, and somebody else is going to overtake their spot.
Yeah, for me, betting wise, I always looked at Carolina. I was like, I'm always looking at the under first. Under
Yes.
goals because they're going to play tough D. The goaltending's going to be there. And you've actually been able to get some decent numbers on the over because they haven't been the team that people expect them this year. So it's one of those you look at them and you keep thinking that because that's who they've been culture-wise for so long, but it's just not who they are this year. That's for sure. What about the Calgary Flames? Excuse me.
Yeah, the Flames were left for dead. I don't know if you remember that, JT.
Mm-hmm.
About two
Oh,
and a half weeks ago,
absolutely.
they were left for dead. This team was an absolute disaster. Guess what? They're 10-4 in the last 14 games. They're just outside of the playoffs. Big reason for that. Blake Coleman has been he's been on fire over the past 3 weeks. I put him in a parlay bet last night. Blake Coleman to score a point. He gets another goal. He's actually been a goal machine of late. Igor Sharangovich has actually been helping him out quite a bit as well. Those two guys have been carrying that team. And guess what we actually have, JT? We got a spotting of Jonathan Huberdeau.
Oh, he's
Huberdeau,
alive. He's
yeah,
there.
he's alive. Yeah, we all left him for dead. And he is now, if you look back at Huberdeau's numbers in the last 2 weeks, he's looking more like Huberdeau. He's starting to actually figure it out. And they're 10-4. Everybody was thinking, boy, they're definitely going to be sellers at the deadline. There's been talks of Elias Lindholm. He's actually on the last year of his $4.85 million deal. It's somewhere around there. I think that's the number. So they're looking to actually move him. There's been talk about moving the goalie Jacob Markstrom as well. Now you got to be thinking, what's Calgary thinking? What do they really think they actually have here? They're starting to click 10-4 in the last 14 games. It'd be interesting what they do at the deadline.
Yeah, Huber is one of those examples of like you just can't necessarily give up on a guy. You can't just bail on
Too
him because you
good.
just never know when a guy's going to get hot when he has that much talent. Guys go through streaks. Sometimes they just fall apart for a while, but man, he's definitely starting to look like the guy we remember from the last couple of years. Your team, the boys, it's been rough lately. Talk to me about the Chicago Blackhawks.
The most often injured team in the NHL this year, and it's not even close. They at last week at one point in time for a good week and a half to 2 week stretch, they had more cap space tied up in the IR than they did on their roster. And they had $33 million tied up on the IR that included Connor Bedard and his entry level contract of $950,000, which was not much at all there for an entry level player. And then they end up having only 31 million on the active roster, and they're struggling to hit the floor. So they actually hit the cap floor. All of that together, it's resulted with them being the second to last league in record. But here's what I'll say about the Hawks. Over the past 2 weeks, they have actually beat some cup contenders. And they've actually played some other teams unbelievably tough between the blue lines and playing a slow down game. They just outshot Edmonton the other night. I think they ended up outshooting them like 21-16. They held Edmonton to 16 shots. They're starting to set the culture. They're playing a tough brand of hockey, and they have one valuable player right now that is on their team fantasy wise, with Bedard being out, and that's the goalie Peter Mrazek. Peter Mrazek, I expect him to be moved at the deadline. Somebody's going to be desperate. The Hawks will actually retain some money on that contract. They'll get a very, very high draft pick for a guy that's probably not in their future plans. But maybe they won't, because maybe the Hawks will decide, you know what, we actually need our team to be somewhat competitive in three periods of each hockey game, and Mrazek's the key to that, and it may stunt the growth of their young players. So it's hard to say what they would do, but he would actually definitely fetch a pretty high round draft pick.
Yeah, they've actually been tough. If you watch the Blackhawks games, I mean, this is a team. You look at the names on the back of the jerseys, you're like, this team should be being blown out every night. Every night they should be getting worked, and they've actually been able to stick with it. Toast, we got a couple comments from our listeners. You're gonna love this. A few of our buddies here asking about our guy. When is the Guffey talk going to start? When's it going down? From our buddy Mike, and he says, Guffey not injury prone. Should the Hawks bring him back? Should we go back to Guffey style? This is some of our inside jokes of our friends. We love talk about Guffey and let everybody, the listeners, know kind of what our buddy Mike is throwing out there.
Yeah, so Guffey is no other than Eric Gustafsson, the former Blackhawk, and the former, I believe, the Columbus Blue Jacket at one time as well, and now he's with the Rangers. Eric Gustafsson, who scored his fourth goal of the season on Monday night, red hot Eric Gustafsson. No, he won't be coming back to the Blackhawks, but JT, if you remember right, I picked up Gustafsson last year off the waiver wires for a $750,000 cap hit in our cap league. And boy, was he a ball of fire last year, man. The guy was phenomenal down the stretch, and he ended up helping us win that league. So, hey, nothing but love for Gustafsson, but no, I won't be touching him this year, and neither will the Blackhawks.
Yeah, our friend Benny D. That's his favorite guy. He loves Guffey, so we always got to bring up the Guffey talk. All right, on to our next team, Colorado Avalanche. Where are we looking at the Avalanche?
It starts and ends with Nathan McKinnon. McKinnon, to me, he's the Hart Trophy winner if the season would end now, and that's saying a whole lot considering how good Nikita Kucherov's been for Tampa Bay. McKinnon's actually had a point in I think 25 straight home games right now, which is a team record. But here's what I've been doing, JT. Every single night, does not matter what the parlay bet is. I put McKinnon in for assists, and the last 2 weeks, it's hit every time. Every single time it's actually hit, and I don't see him slowing down right now at all. He's having his best season of his career, which is saying something considering he's won a Hart Trophy before, he's won a Cup before. So, but I am a little concerned with this Colorado team, and the reason being is they have Arturi Lehkonen, who's actually been out injured for most of the season, if not all of the season as well. Kale McCarr is actually injury prone to get banged up, even though right now he is tearing it up. And they already had their captain, Gabriel Landeskog, who they say report may come in for the playoffs and actually get that playoff run with him. You and I have him on our dynasty league as well. But I am concerned with a guy like Valerie Nichushkin, who actually has been a better than a point per game player and actually been a mainstay on that top line. He just entered the player assistance program. And when you have a player enter the player assistance program, it can be for many different reasons, and we don't have any idea how long it could be either. So Nichushkin owners out there are pretty upset about that, and I'm sure that Colorado as well is pretty concerned about one of their star players being gone to assist McKinnon.
Yeah, I'm worried about this Avs team. I just feel like it's just like guys are dropping. It just feels like they had so much talent and they seem real thin. If they can't get guys back, man, even though McKinnon's been fantastic, I could see an early exit from the playoffs from the Avs. It's just this team's super talented, but it just seems like they're just losing guys and important guys all over the place. So it'll be interesting to see if they can kind of figure that out or get something put back together. Any other thing on this grouping right here we talked about? I feel like we've kind of hit everybody up. Feel good about where we're at. Ready to move on to our next set.
Let's go back. Let's go to the next 8.
All right. Let's talk about the dumpster fire that is the Columbus Blue Jackets.
They're a dumpster fire. You said it. There's nothing else to really say. There's nothing to hang your hat on in Columbus right now other than having Adam Fantilli. They're the number 3 pick overall in the draft, and the guy who screwed Mike out of his money last year, being the number 2 pick in the draft overall. I'm really sorry about that, Mike, if you're still listening. But Patrick Laine and Johnny Gaudreau, who were supposed to be their 2 leaders and their 2 mainstays. We've talked about how they've got healthy scratch in the past. They are both having their worst seasons of their career. And I'll tell you, they're not leaders. The leaders should actually be elevating the play of guys around them. And what they're doing is they're actually relying on their young guys like Fantilli to be their best player and other young guys as well. All the Russians. You got a Russian liner led by a guy named Chinikov. And JT, you may not know this, but we also have him on our dynasty league. We drafted him a couple years back, and he's a 22-year-old forward. He's already got 12 goals in a short amount of time of actually playing and not a full season going on here. They're going to be led by that Russian line. It's actually about a bunch of younger players, young for Russia anyway, and they're not relying on guys like Laine and Gaudreau, which in Gaudreau, they're tied to him for a very long time in that contract. So again, there's just no light at the end of the tunnel for a team like Columbus.
Yeah, for me, you always see guys that, seem like they elevate teams. They're the leaders. Laine and Gaudreau, to me, those are like, if they're your 3rd or 4th best player, you're in good spot.
Yep.
Because they're that guy that's going to get you points. They're going to do some stuff behind the scenes if everybody else takes the lead role. When those are your best players, that's a problem for me. I just don't think those guys can be the best player on a team. And they can be the best player on a team, but they've shown if they're your best player, they're not going to be. The team's not going to be good.
Yeah.
And
they don't have what it takes. I just don't think they have what it takes. And Laine can't stay healthy, and Gaudreau just really is not capable of actually leading an entire team and carrying a team on his back. He's done it before at Calgary in the past, but for whatever reason in Columbus, it's not working, and he's a shell of himself. I think he's only pacing for like 40 points this year. That's embarrassing for him.
Yeah. Toast, we got Mike jumping back on. He says he wants his money back. Laughing.
Yeah.
I thought that was a good bet. I thought you were pretty confident about it. I thought that was the move. I was shocked that he didn't go second and he actually dropped to Columbus at third.
He should have went second, and Leo Carlson actually jumped in front of him, went second to Anaheim. And still, if you look today, based on all of the statistics that are actually being displayed, as well as the the play on the ice, and also if you look at all of the analysts out there and the people that are in the know, Fantilli is by far and away the second best pick of that draft, and it's not close. The fact that he actually went third is again apologies to Michael.
Toast, we're gonna get a Toast Takes bet together for Mike. We're gonna win that money back. We're gonna
Yep.
get that money back for Mike. We're gonna do it. All right, on to our next team, Dallas Stars. You love them. I love them. They're our favorite to win it all. Where are we at with our favorite pick to win the NHL Stanley Cup?
Yep. And I really think it's going to be them. And I'm still hanging on to my Islanders. I mean, the Islanders haven't been all that great of late, but man, they play that ugly game. And we'll talk about the Islanders here in a bit. But Dallas is a machine. Robertson's now, I think he may be up to 17, 18 goals, somewhere around here. Hintz actually has about the same amount, and so does Pavelski. They're all within 17, 18 goals of one another, and even top line, and that comes out there and hits you in the mouth. That second line we talked about with Duchesne, and also I think with Sagan and Marchment as well. They're not letting up as well. The only thing that concerns me right now is Jake Ottinger's been a little banged up in goal. And then their backup goalie as well, Wedgwood, he's also been banged up. So goalie injuries actually really biting Dallas right now. But I think 1 through 4 on the lines, they're so unbelievably talented. They'll figure out a way. Heck, I picked up Matt Murray off of the waiver for a spot start the other day. I think it was maybe last week. And what does he do? He pitches a 4-0 shutout. And the guy actually hasn't started in the league in forever. So that's what kind of team Dallas is. And I don't see them slowing up.
Got to throw a little story in here real quick. Had a monster parlay running on Saturday. I'm watching NFL playoffs, and I look and I was like, I gotta put it on the hockey game. Like everyone's like, what's going on? I was like, I got a huge parlay going. I had the Stars going against the Blackhawks. Again, the Blackhawks playing tough as could be. Blackhawks winning the whole game. I text you, Toast. I was like, I need the Stars, man. I'm sorry. I'm sorry about your Blackhawks. They tie it up. You're like, oh, they tied it. I was like, I got a -1.5. I need something big time. They end up scoring late, going up by a goal. I needed the empty netter. I'm up off this couch. I'm sitting in front of the TV. I'm like, pull the goalie, pull the goalie. We need an empty netter. Man, they had it. He hits it, hits the post, bounces off. I about fell to the floor dying. I was like, you got to be kidding me. I'm going to lose this. He hit the post. And I think it was 45 seconds, a minute later, there was like less than a minute left in the game. They somehow got the puck and flung one down the ice and scored.
And it was Pavelski.
4-2 victory. Ended up covering the 1.5. So then I was just sitting this was a 5-pick parlay. They were number 4. Then I was just waiting on the Bruins, who I thought had it done. They were up a goal. All of a sudden, I look up right after that happened, and they let them tie it. It ties. It goes 3-3. I'm like, oh, no. I'm like, the Bruins, because I told you, they never lose unless I bet on them. I feel like every time I've taken them, they've gone down this year. Let them tie it up. I'm like, I'm screwed. I'm totally screwed. I can't believe I'm going to lose on the last leg of the parlay, which always happens to me. That's why they call me JT Parlay. It's I just always lose on that last leg. And then they end up scoring an OT and winning it. My $100 bet brought in $950 on that 5-team parlay. I had Carolina in there, Tampa Bay, the Oilers, Stars -1.5, and the Bruins. Nice little weekend starter there. Loved it. So big win there. I had to tell that little story about me freaking out about the Stars not taking down the Blackhawks by 1.5. Yeah, as I say, no more 1.5 bets against the Blackhawks because they're going to be in it the whole time. I barely pulled that one off, but I was freaking out. It was pretty crazy.
Heck, you can probably start getting the Blackhawks at +2.5, or I get -150 almost every single night. And the way they've been playing and keeping games so close and playing that really slow game between the blue lines, You may have to just do the +2.5 and just ride the Hawks, man. So
exactly. I agree with you. Let's jump on to our next team, my guys. The Detroit Red Wings went through a little bit of a lull after a great start. Where are we seeing the Red Wings right now at this point in the season?
they're settling back in. They're going to be the playoff team I said they'd be, and they're going to be right now. They're the top wild card team in the East, and that's a tough Eastern Conference. All right, it's pretty loaded. There's no doubt. I am a little concerned. Patrick Kane, man, since the Kane signing, Kane has been awesome. Every a point per game player, scoring equal goals and assists. Really, you can see he's not supplanting Larkin as the leader of that team, but he is a leader of that team as well. He's injured. Luckily, right now they're saying it's a lower body injury, and the team is reporting that it's not his hip that was actually kept him out of action. That
Yeah,
he actually that he had surgery on, and a very very tough surgery. May we add you as well. So best of luck to Kaner. Hope Kane actually comes back here in the next week or so and can pick up right where he left off because he's been having a really really good season. And I've been telling people Kane, health wise, as long as health's there, and health has really never been that big of a concern for him, he's going to be Patrick Kane of old. He looks like it. I mean, he's moving around on the ice just like he used to. Nobody loves the game more than Kane, and he's been a point per game player. He's been great. But Lucas Raymond's been, in my mind, the best storyline for the Detroit Red Wings all season.
absolutely.
And if you can go out in the dynasty league and get Lucas Raymond, I would say go ahead and do it for sure. And use the guy you should actually covet because Raymond's going to be one of those top 2 players on this team for many years to come. He's in the last year, I believe, of his $925,000 ELC deal. So he's going to be getting paid here, and we'll be interested to see if he just takes the 8-year, like $8 million deal like everybody else is taking. And I think that's what it's going to do. It's going to take, considering of his age, such a young player in his first contract, he's going to command that type of money in that type of terms. So watch out for Lucas Raymond. But if you can target him in leagues and keeper leagues and deep leagues, as well as dynasty leagues, go get him.
Yeah, I love Raymond. When they drafted him, I was pumped. I loved him. I was like, man, this is the type of scorer they need. And Toast, empty net goal, won us our salary cap league on Sunday night. He got us our empty netter in the late game against the Maple Leafs. Was a big one. It clinched it for us. We were in a battle. We were down in a league that we have a real strong team, and we were down. And you're like, can we get it done? I was like, Lucas Raymond, Larkin are going to get it done for us, and they did. Larkin got a goal, and then we were just slightly up. The guy we were playing had Mitch Marner for the Maple Leafs. He scored late. Got a goal. I was like, oh, I thought we had it. I thought we had it clinched. He scored late, got him in within, I think, maybe a point of us. And then Raymond finished it off with an empty netter. So I love my boy Lucas Raymond. Finished that off for us. It was fantastic. Let's talk about the team that's been all over the place this year, the Edmonton Oilers.
Excuse me, JT. Winners of 11 straight. So let me tell you about the Oilers, why I'm kind of liking the Oilers now. I think early on in the season, I said, you know what? The Oilers, they just don't have what it takes. Come playoff time, they're way too top heavy. They're not built on lines 1 through 4 to actually win. But here's what the Oilers have actually showed me in this 11-game win streak here, especially after they started off, I think 3-9-1 this season. It may even be a little bit worse than that. It was probably bad. This is a team record of winners 11 straight. Think about that. All those great Edmonton teams of the past, and guys like Gretzky and Yari Curry, and I mean the list goes on and on how great these teams were. They never won 11 straight. They've won 11 straight to team record. But I like how they're actually winning games, because if you go back and look at their last 6-7 games, they're winning low scoring games. And that's great for Edmonton. They're winning a 2-1 games, a 3-2 games. And even though, that type of game is usually not the way they like to play. They like to play a high scoring game. They're getting great goaltending right now from Stuart Skinner. He's won a whole bunch of games in a row. Young goaltender, 24 years old. So Edmonton showed me in the league something over the last week and a half to 2 weeks, not only winning, but winning the right way. And when I say the right way, a way that you need to win come playoff time. They may be finally figuring it out.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, the fact that, it seemed like they only could win 5-3 games, 5-4 games, 6-4 games. If they can figure out how to hold down and win some of these 2-1 games, I think we might see a different team in the playoffs. I mean, this Edmonton team, man, what a rough start, but it looks like they finally have gotten together. I mean, it's too much talent to hold that team down. I agree with you on that. Florida Panthers, where we got on them?
A top 3 team in the East, and a guy or a team really that is led by a surprising player and Sam Reinhart. Remember, JT, I said about 3 weeks ago on the
Sell, sell,
podcast,
sell. Sell, sell, sell.
sell. No, don't sell.
Oh man,
Because
I
guess
can't
what?
believe he's kept it going. He's kept it going.
He hit another one tonight. That's 33 goals, and I believe this is their 43rd game. So he's on pace right now for high 50s, maybe even cracking that 60 goal plateau. Sam Reinhart, man, he's like the Chris Kreider of last year, scoring 52 goals coming out of the gate. Or maybe that would have been a year before, but nevertheless, that's the type of player he is right now. And he carried that team mainly when they really didn't have their legs underneath them early in the season from that long cup run. And with Matthew Tkachuk really wasn't himself. And now guess who's himself? Matthew Tkachuk is scoring in bunches. And you're reaping the benefits of that in our home league, JT. That's another guy been taken for an assist every single night. And if you go back and look, he's hit an assist almost every single game for some time right now. So I think now Florida finally got their legs underneath them, man. They got great goaltending with Bobrovsky as well. They're led by Sasha Barkov, and I think they're just now starting to go. Florida's going to be really dangerous moving forward.
Yeah, I think the fact that Bob looks like old school Bob is a huge difference for them. He looks like the guy that was leading that team a couple of years ago, and now the offense is there with it. So I mean, the Panthers early on, it looked like they just didn't have the legs after that long run last year. Feels like they're finally getting it back together. I'm liking this Florida team. What about the LA Kings? One of the bigger surprises in the league, I think, so far.
Yeah, talk about a team that may be losing their legs a little bit, and don't have the legs underneath them. And that may be the Kings right now. They're barely clinging to a top 3 Pacific division, Pacific playoff spot. JT, they've won 1 game out of the last 10. They're 1-5-4. So they're going backwards right now. I did go back and look at the schedule for the Kings. This seems to be a really tough stretch in the schedule with some really, really good teams. They're actually have won. They've lost a lot of those games and 1-goal games as well. I think in the end they'll actually be okay. But you got to think in the back of your mind, did the Kings actually come out this season? And this is one season a little too early for them to be able to put it together in an 82 game span and actually the playoffs as well. It just may be a season too early for them.
Yeah, the goaltending was just phenomenal out of the gate, and you wondered, could they keep that up? I mean,
with guys like
Talbot,
Talbot,
yeah.
I mean, come on, like you're right, and that's exactly right, JT.
What about the Minnesota Wild?
Nightmare season. Nightmare on Elm Street, man. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
an absolute nightmare. What's really a nightmare about Minnesota? They got $15 million in dead cap money. And that ain't going away anytime soon. For the next 2 or 3 seasons, they still got contracts like Zach Parise on the books. I mean, so they are in cap hell. It's been a nightmare season because they have injuries. The Kaprizov, they had a long-term injury to Zuccarello. They had a long-term injury to their goaltender Gustafsson, another Gustafsson, Mike, and also too Matthew Boldy, their young star as well. He was on the shelf for a bit. So I just don't see Minnesota be able to overcome and actually make the playoffs, even though they're not that far out right now, because it just seems like they're a snake bitten, and 2, just with their cap constraints, it's going to be really, really difficult. So Minnesota, not really sure. But again, if your trade deadline in your league hasn't really happened so far, they got to be better than what they've been. They have to be better at some point. And I love a guy like Zuccarello. If you can go ahead and trade for him and actually buy low on him, and get a guy like him and just pray that he's healthy the rest of the year, there has to be better days. I would imagine they have to be better in the second half.
What about the Montreal Canadiens? They're a team that they've surprised me so far this year.
Boring team all the way around.
We are, but they're games.
Yeah, they're in a freaking playoff bubble. This team, you're like, hey, right now, JT, this is like the Cleveland Indians on, who are these guys? But pretty much that's who they are. Like, who are these guys? But
Exactly.
they're getting good goaltending from Sam Montembeault. Montembeault's actually been surprisingly really good and steady from Montreal. Another guy you could actually in those 12 to 14 team leagues. Get him as your goaltender, as your number two. He gets the majority of the starts there. He's pretty reliable. I think his save percentage is pretty good. And honestly, again, they're in a playoff bubble. I really can't believe, but their 2022 number one overall pick in the draft, Slavkovsky, he's really starting to come on. He's starting to actually figure it out. And then they got guys like Caulfield as well, and a defenseman is Matheson, and they have Nick Suzuki. They got some really young pieces around that team, and
Mm-hmm.
they're actually young. Their stars on that team are actually young. They just don't really have a great supporting cast. And again, they're just a really bland team to watch. I try to avoid watching Montreal if all possible.
I know, watching them and then betting against them. I feel like every time I'm like, I look at them and I'm like, it's Montreal.
Yeah.
They're no good. And then I take the other team and then Montreal sticks in it, plays close or wins. And I'm like, it's so frustrating. So I'm like, I'm starting to avoid Montreal on the betting line. I don't want to bet against them. They're boring. They feel like they should lose every night, and then they don't. So I've been avoiding the Canadians. What about Nashville Predators?
They're in a wild card spot in the West, and really, it's a couple unsung heroes. You got Ryan O'Reilly, and O'Reilly has been nothing short of spectacular all season long. Came out of nowhere to really be that number two to Philip Forsberg. They give Forsberg a little bit of a supporting cast other than just Roman Yossi. And Forsberg, I'm sure, actually appreciates it because O'Reilly's been awesome. And over the last month, a guy in the name of Gustav Nyquist. I believe Nyquist is the old Columbus Blue Jacket.
Hey, he was
He's
on the Red Wings before that.
on the
Old
Red
Red
Wings
Wing.
before. He's been a guy I picked up 2 weeks ago in our home league, man, and I don't regret it. I don't going to be dropping him anytime soon either. He has been scoring and scoring in bunches as well, and it's a good thing they have JT because right now UC Saros has been nothing but just average at best this year. The only reason he's a top five goalie in our home league right now is because of his volume starts. He gets a lot of starts or whatnot, but I think he's 17 and 16 with a 302. And that's not UC Saros we actually know. So he hasn't been all that great, but yet Nashville scored a lot more goals. They went out in the offseason this year, and with a new general manager, they made a concerted effort to get faster on the ice everywhere. And with even younger guys like Luke Evangelista as well, they have definitely got younger. They have definitely got faster, and they have older veterans like O'Reilly to help steer the ship while they actually get there. So I like what Nashville's doing.
Yeah, Saros has been a little bit disappointing, but at least for fantasy wise, he still is getting you points. So you got to love
Mhm.
that, even though he hasn't been what you thought he would be as far as being a rock back there, but he's still getting you some points. Here's another team I feel like we discuss all the time. A team I liked, you liked. It just seems like they can't get it all together is the New Jersey Devils.
The Devils have been stake bitten by injuries, and the Devils have also been stake bitten by just awful goaltending. Uh,
Awful.
th- they're relying on a guy like named Nico Dawes, and I picked up Dawes tonight. And guess what? They lost at home to the Canadians of all teams. We just discussed that
Like
three
I
to two.
said, that's why I quit taking the Canadian, quit betting against the Canadians.
Yep, yep. And Slavkovsky had another goal scored, and Dawes ended up having. Let's see, it looks like he had 22 out of 25 saves. Just figured I'd take a stab in the dark, thinking the Devils may win tonight and actually steal a win, and another 3 points in our home league. Well, it didn't happen because guess what? They've been relying on guys like Schmidt and also guys like Vanashek, and that ain't going to work. New Jersey's going nowhere this year. And they had such an unbelievably hot start coming out of the gate and just lit the world on fire. They've now since really had off and on injuries to Jack Hughes. He's week to week right now. Timo Meyer's actually week to week as well. He wasn't doing anything anyway. Jesper Bratt's been that one player on their team that's been their rock and has been the one constant on that team. And he's a 25-year-old forward. Another guy who I actually didn't draft in our dynasty league, JT, but I actually drafted a Dabber Hockey dynasty league there. And man, I'm in first in that league out of 18 teams in that league, and it's an inaugural season. And Jesper Bratt's a big reason why. He's been phenomenal.
Yeah, with the Hughes injury crushing me in home league, that he's been out. I think I'm finally out on the Devils. I just
You
think
got to
there's
be.
no way. I think there's just no way this year. I think they're just done for. I think they're gonna just have to pack it in, regroup for next year, figure out the goalie situation. I had high hopes they would get it together eventually. I think it's over for them. So I agree with you on that. How about the team that you kind of liked? You started, we talked about it midway through the year show, that you liked them to make a run this year. How about the New York Islanders?
Well, how about them? They were sitting really, really pretty about 2.5 weeks ago when I anointed them as my favorite to actually come out of the East. Since then, they've been nothing but garbage. 4-8 in their last
Of
12.
course.
So of course it's my fault, that I actually did that. But the Islanders, again, they're still doing what they were doing in the early part of the season when they were winning games. They play a close game, and this year they have an offense to actually back up their good defense and goaltending, and that still hasn't changed yet. All right, and we know again the Islanders right now they're still in a pretty good spot. They're only a couple of games out of a playoff spot. We're only halfway through this season. And this is a team who has plenty of veterans on that team. They got unbelievably great goaltending. So I still expect them to be there in the hunt at the end. That's a team if they can just make it. If they can just make it in, I would not want to play them at all, man. They're gritty. Again, they do it well in the back end. They got really good goaltending, and that's a team that could be super sneaky in the playoffs. And actually, before you know it, they're in the cup finals. So they're relying on guys right now, like finally, like an older veteran like Anders Lee is actually coming forward. I believe he's got 13 or 14 goals. You got Brock Nelson, you got Kyle Palmieri. All of these guys that are veterans at the 30-year-old mark or whatnot, they're carrying that team right now. And you got young stars kind of around them, like Matt Barzal. Bo Horvat's actually been real, really good all year. So, and you got um, geez. Anyway, they got Dobson, right? The great defenseman as well. They got enough talent to actually get it done. So I'm not too worried about the Islanders, especially being 4-8 in their last 12. Who cares? They're going to make it.
We got some comments from the listeners. We got Gail saying, "Who are these guys?" and then saying they're phenomenal. Well, we appreciate it, Gail. Thanks for listening to the show. Hopefully, keep
Yeah, who's
bringing
this
the
Gale
good.
guy?
Yes,
I
Gail.
mean,
He'll bring the good
geez.
hockey content to you.
Yeah, so
Let's move on to
that's my brother Gale, and he's really got back into hockey this year, and I think I'm gonna maybe try to squeeze find a spot for him to be able to squeeze in our home league next year as an expansion team.
we're gonna get Gale in there. We're gonna get him moved in. He's been in our home fantasy football league for years. Well, with you,
JT,
so
this 32 and 32 is hard, man. I mean, where's the bartenders at? I'm already empty.
I know it's like, hey, we gotta have somebody, yelling at the barkeep to get me one,
Yeah,
right?
I'm gonna yell at my
Uh,
wife. Come on.
we're moving through. We're about to. So next, New York team, we're going to the Rangers. They were my pick, coming out of the East. I really have been on the Rangers lately. I've loved everything they've been doing. Where do the Rangers sit right now in the Metro?
I think the Rangers are just biding their time right now. They're just kind of hanging out. They're just toying with teams. They're the top in the Metro Division right now. They may have actually, if you look at it, they may be 500 over the last 2 weeks or so. I really don't think it makes a difference to the Rangers. They're going to be there in the end. There's almost like a cat kind of just pawing a little bit of food, and they actually know they can eat it whenever they want, and that's what they're doing. And I like the fact that they have a guy like Vinny Trocheck and guys like Chris Kreider. They've now got hot to be able to actually supplement what Artemi Panarin's actually done. And Trocheck right now has 43 points in 43 games, and Kreider's already hit the 20 goal mark. So now Panarin all of a sudden has been able to get some help. And aside from Mika Zibanejad actually having a slow start to the half of the season, he hasn't even played his best hockey yet. So New York Rangers actually be fine. They're built to go deep in the playoffs.
How about moving on to another team that has absolutely struggled, been under, have just not lived up to expectations whatsoever. The Ottawa Senators.
Um, I won't say dumpster fire because they have so much talent on that team offensively, and they got some good defensive players as well. They have zero goaltending. I mean, when I say zero, zero, no goaltending at all. I believe they're actually letting up the second most goals in the entire league, and I believe they're actually way up there in scoring. I mean, so They just need a little bit of help on the back end defensively. They got defensemen who can score, but they don't have any defensemen, 1 through 6 that can really actually shut down, and their goaltending is actually nowhere to be found. Brady Tkachuk's still a machine. He's still doing it night after night after night. Tim Stützle is a guy who I'm actually still point per game, but that's only because he has a million assists. He hardly has any goals at all. He's been a huge disappointment for me. They got guys like Batherson that's actually been really, really good. And I really actually like with the old guy, Claude Giroux. Man, Giroux's actually been awesome for Ottawa. From a fantasy perspective, offensively, Ottawa still bangs, man. They're still great. You can actually still get a lot of points out of them. But, man, in the NHL, for wins and losses, this team, it's not, I think they're 14-21. It's embarrassing for a team that's like this much talent on there. There's no reason for it.
Yeah, I agree with you. What about the Philadelphia Flyers?
Story of the league so far, in my opinion. 24-14-6. The coming out party this year for Travis Konechny. I think John Tortorella come in there and he kind of straightened out that franchise that had a whole lot of young talent because mainly they were bad for a few years and was able to actually pile up on draft picks and actually really stockpile that farm system. And Tortorella's actually got the most out of Konechny. And I think Tortorella has actually come out and said Konechny's going to be the captain of that team. Really, he's got a supporting cast with guys like Joel Farabee, who I picked up in our home league like 3 weeks ago, and I'm not going to be dropping Farabee anytime soon. Joel Farabee has been awesome. He has been awesome. And even guys like Sean Couture, who's been banged up a little bit recently. You got Konechny, Farabee, and Couture. They've been scoring together in bunches. Those three guys actually all scoring and complement one another. Love the fact that Philadelphia went out and actually stole, in my opinion, Jamie Drysdale away from Anaheim because Cutter Gauthier, I don't know how to pronounce his name, but that's his name, Cutter Gauthier. Nevertheless, said, I'm not going to play for Philadelphia. Philadelphia tried to get in touch with him during the World Juniors. He avoided them. He was their draft pick. And guess what? Tortorella and the front office, Jones in the front office said, you know what? We don't want you. If you don't want to be here, we don't want you either. And they turned around and actually traded that pick and get a guy like Jamie Drysdale. Now he's actually their number one power play quarterback, and Drysdale fits in perfect with them. I love what Philadelphia's doing.
I thought that was a great move. I saw Philly fans real upset about Gauthier, but I'm like, man, I saw that trade. I was like, they got Drysdale? I was like,
he's young.
I was like, I love that move for them.
Yeah, they got their mainstay. They got their mainstay at defense.
And I jumped on the Flyers, a little cross sport bet on Monday Night Football. I took the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Philadelphia Flyers, a little plus 340 parlay, 2-team parlay. Knocked that one out of the park. So that was a nice little bet I got there. I've been liking the Flyers. You've been getting decent money on them with how hot they were. I got them at minus 115. I loved it. So they're a nice team. Like I say, if you're looking at, I don't think everybody's caught up to the Flyers yet. You can still get some pretty good odds on them betting wise. How about the Pittsburgh Penguins?
Penguins are a borderline playoff team, and mainly because of Sidney Crosby and how great he is. He's still great.
He's still killing it.
25 goals this season. The guy is actually on pace to close to 50 goals. That's why he's a top 15 to 20 player of all time, and maybe even a little bit higher than that. He's nothing short of amazing. I would say that he has actually carried that team. They've been inconsistent play from guys like Gensel. Russ has actually been injured for most of the season. Letang and Carlson really have never got going for the most part as a tandem, and especially taking turns on that power play. And Evgeny Malkin is such a streaky player right now. He's actually on the back half of his career. Letang assists of late. He's been scoring assists like crazy. That's been great. And I believe Tristan Jarry, their goaltender's really done a nice job. So Pittsburgh. Another guy. You actually want to go out there on the waiver wire, just remembered, and try to get him. Pick up Ricard Raquel. Raquel has actually been playing with Crosby, and Raquel is actually having a resurgence here and has found a nice home there in Pittsburgh. He's a guy who can be had on the waiver wire. You should go take a look at him.
Let's talk about the San Jose Sharks. My roommate, freshman year at San Diego State, was a gigantic Larry Kiekler was his name. Haven't talked to him in quite a few years, but he was a gigantic San Jose Sharks fan, was from San Jose. Tell me about the Sharks.
Well, I'm sorry, Larry. They suck. They suck really bad.
They're terrible.
They're the worst team in the NHL. But again, that's by design. That's by design that they're going to be that bad. Right now, I believe they're going to be major trade deadline sellers. The only problem is going to be they're going to want to be sellers. They don't have a lot to sell. All of their pieces are young players they really don't want to get rid of, or they're older players with not the best contracts. I do think a player that will be moved is Anthony Duclair, because Duclair's moved every year. Every single year,
It feels like everybody trades him.
Yeah, he plays for a different playoff team every single year, whether it's the Panthers, whether it's the Leafs. I mean, every single season Duclair's on a different team, and this is no different. He'll be moved again. This is how bad it is in San Jose right now. And again, kind of by design, only 2 guys over 20 points scored the entire season. So what is there else there is to say about San Jose? There's really nobody else, maybe other than Fabian Zetterlund, that you would actually have on your roster, and that's got to be in deep leagues, like 14 team leagues, if you're going to go and roster him. And of course, Tomas Hertl. But other than that, there's nobody else.
The little Sharks news for me, I keep betting against them -1.5 because you have to, because it's always like -400, -350. The odds are just so terrible, and I can't ever get that extra empty net goal. I'm starting to look. I'm like, I'm gonna have to start taking the under in San Jose games, or I'm gonna have to look and see if I can take San Jose team points under, because they do not score a lot of points, but man, they've lost a lot of 1-goal games where I'm like, I got them at -1.5, and I'm like, I'm waiting for them to get blown out, and they just don't always get blown out, even if they get worked the entire game. So that's one of those I'm going to have to make a slight adjustment on the gambling style there. What about Seattle Kraken?
Seattle Kraken have found their way, just like last year when they were, only their second year of existence. They were so unbelievably good. Had a tough start to the year this year, but they found themselves. They were recently winners of 8 straight, and I think they've won 10 out of the last 14 games. So they're the second hottest team in the NHL behind Edmonton, and it's really mainly because their best player, Jared McCann, has actually started to get it going. And he's actually brought over guys like Oliver Borkstrand and Jaden Schwartz as well to go with him. Those 3 guys have actually just been on fire. It's probably one of the 3 or 4 top trios in the league over the last 3 weeks. They've been that darn good. And I recently traded for a goalie, Joey Decord, in our home league for a 13th round draft pick. Thank you very much, Aaron Tomatich. That 13th rounder will actually help you out as well. But nevertheless, Decord was a guy I believe that actually won 8 straight starts. So now I'm actually rolling out a trio of Demko, Saros, and also Decord in that league, and I'm kind of liking the way that's looking moving forward. So the one guy I'm really disappointed with though is Matty Beniers. I thought Beniers would actually kind of find his way in that group of 3 and make it a 4 player, kind of where they're all kind of all getting together and actually scoring a whole lot of points. And it just, from a fantasy perspective, it hasn't happened for Beniers yet. And at this point, you got to think, will it? Because really, he's only got maybe 19 points all year in like 45 games, and he was so much better than that last year when he ended up winning the Calder.
What about the Blues? They're the team that, they're in a lot of games. They play tough, but it just doesn't seem like they got enough.
They won't make the playoffs. And I say that mainly because I don't like the Blues, but also too, they're a -15 in the goal differential. I can't believe they're 21-19-2.
I'm shocked too. They're the team, like, every time I watch them, I'm like, I don't think this team's very good, but it seems like they're in a lot of games.
Yep, they got bad contracts on that team. I'm not really sure if they're rebuilding or if they're actually going for it. You just really don't know what their formula is. If I'm a Blues fan, I'm really confused on what's happening here. They got Thomas, who's had a really, really good season after signing a really big contract. And Jordan Kyrou as well, that's really come on in the last month. Besides those 2, there's nobody in my mind that's serviceable that I would even have it on fantasy roster. Maybe Bushnevich. Other than that, there's just nothing else. I'm just kind of avoiding St. Louis if I can altogether. Mainly, again, A, because I hate them, and B, it is what it is. They're just not very good.
Yeah. What about the Tampa Bay Lightning?
clinging to that last spot in the or in the Western Conference. I'm sorry, the wild card there in the East.
Yeah,
Sorry,
wild
JT.
card
And
East. No, you're good.
the Kucherov. I did write down his stats here. 28 goals, 44 assists, 72 points in 43 games played. He's on pace for nearly 150-point pace. And again,
Beast.
you would think that that's enough to get the Hart Trophy, but Nathan McKinnon's just doing just as much, if not more. And he may not
It's gonna
score
be a battle.
28 goals. It's going to be a battle. It's got to be those two right now. Now, if Edmonton comes out and McDavid just goes absolutely bonkers like we know he could, he's the only other guy who could get in that MVP race. But really, right now, and I think throughout the rest of the season, it's McKinnon or it's Kucherov, and they're both going to have to keep the pace of what they've done in the first half. One player I like in Tampa Bay, Brandon Hagel, and his versatile play. They've moved him up and down the lineup. He's been on power play 1, off power play 1 to power play 2, and he's still actually producing. He's near a point per game player. Young player, used to play for the Hawks. He's 26 years old. Love Hagel. Tampa Bay, I'm just not sure what to think about them. I expect them to be a lot better than what they've been. I'm not sure.
What about the Toronto Maple Leafs? They finally gave my boy Nylander the monster contract we thought was coming. What else is going on there with the Leafs?
Yeah, they gave him such a monster contract, JT, of $11.5 million over 8 years that I had to go ahead and churn in our dynasty league, shed some salary. Maybe go ahead and I moved Devon Taves from Colorado and got a draft pick in return there, a second round pick. We went ahead and ate some of that money, but he has a $7.5 million deal. Taves has going into next season. That's going to start. We don't want that contract, so we're making room for Nylander because he's that damn good. But Matthews is going to hit 70 goals. I just think he's going to do it. But the problem is going to be is they're not going to make any noise in the playoffs again because again they don't have the goaltending, they don't have the defense. It's the same story with Toronto year in and year out. They're going to light the lamp a million times. They're going to have a really, really good regular season. They're going to go through these funks where they actually lose the teams they shouldn't be losing to, and they are not built for the playoffs. So they're not going to make any noise.
They feel like that super fun regular season team. Like if they were an NBA team, they're scoring like 130 a night. But then
Yep.
you're like, once they get the playoffs, they're going to be toast. You're like, yeah, it's awesome right now. It's super fun. They got a ton of talent. They're hitting threes everywhere. They're scoring goals everywhere. But once they get the playoffs, you're like, this team's not going to be able to hold it down when it gets that nitty gritty playoff hockey. Yeah, I think Leafs fans are in for a disappointment again, which sucks for them. But man, so much talent on that team. What about just the surprise for me? I did not see this coming at all. Vancouver Canucks, man, they have been lights out this year, way better than I thought they would be.
Yeah, it's no surprise with guys like JT Miller and Elias Pettersson actually just going off, and they've continued to do that all season. The biggest surprises to me have actually been guys like Brock Besser. And Besser, again, is a guy like Reinhart, who you expected him to go ahead and fall off on Florida, and he hasn't. And so I can't expect that Besser's going to fall off. He's up to 26 or 27 goals on the season. That would be another guy I would go ahead and target if you can go ahead and it's going to be a buy high, but nevertheless, especially in a dynasty league, because he's young. He's a guy that the Blackhawks were actually rumored to be interested in and actually try to go after. Now I'm pissed they didn't do it. But they also got guys like Morrissey, a defenseman who's actually been solid all year. And I already mentioned kind of what Patrick Demko's done this year. Demko's been lights out. He's been, besides Connor Hellebuck, he's been the best goalie in the league. So Vancouver, I love them with Quinn Hughes on the back end there as well. His ability to actually score, lead the team there as well. I think Vancouver is finally built after their disappointing first half of last year to really make a deep playoff run. I love Vancouver.
Yeah, what about the Vegas Knights? I got off to a just unbelievable start. They were hot, hot, hot. It seems like they're finally cooling off.
Yeah, it's concerning because they've actually haven't been able to stay healthy at the goaltending position all year with Aiden Hill and Logan Thompson. They've been kind of sharing injuries back and forth, almost like a cold, and that's continued. Mark Stone has been a big surprise for them, and I say surprise meaning he's played. I want to say he's played every game, and he had a hat trick a couple nights ago. So thank God they've actually had Mark Stone healthy because Jack Eichel's been out. Eichel's injured. I want to say he's more than day to day. He may be week to week right now. I mean, along with their goaltending issues as well. Vegas, they're still comfortably in the playoffs, but they've actually only won 4 games in the last 14. It's concerning. So again, they got to get healthy, and I think once they get healthy, they know how to win. They're kind of like Boston in that way. They'll figure it out. They're going to be a tough out in the playoff. I wouldn't want to play them, especially if they're healthy.
Yeah, a guy we threw some bets on this year, Alex Ovechkin, looking for the shots. He's now banged up. Washington Capitals kind of look like a disaster right now.
Boring team. JT, they don't shoot the puck and they don't allow any shots. So it's basically just carrying the puck around the ice in between the blue lines.
Running
not a
the
whole
four
lot
corners.
happening.
Just running four corners.
It's just nothing's happening. Ovechkin's injured now. I mean, I think he's been out 3 straight games, and that's kind of big for Ovechkin. He doesn't miss a whole lot of time. And you got guys like Dylan Strome picking him up, and now Match Pacioretty is actually back. But Match Pacioretty, let's face it, he's old. He's been injury prone. He's blown out his Achilles twice. That's not a guy they can really rely on to actually help carry the pace. Washington, somehow they're still actually above 500 and actually in a playoff run, and they're just kind of like St. Louis. I have no idea how they're actually doing it.
What about Winnipeg Jets to kind of finish this thing off?
Yeah, finish it off with the best goaltender in the league, and that's Connor Hellebuck. You and I actually did a pretty big piece on Hellebuck, I believe, back in maybe episode 10 or 11 of our podcast here, talking about how we actually thought he had actually rounded himself out to be the best goaltender in the AHL now, and actually supplanting guys like Vasilevsky from Tampa Bay. Man, he has been phenomenal. He has been so unbelievably good, reliable, and steady. Kyle Connor is finally back from the injury, JT, and guess what he does last night? Scoring goals.
Finally back. I got to get him off my IR. He's been on my IR forever. I need him. I need him bad.
Yeah, the league's got to take notice of Winnipeg because they were actually already the best team in the NHL without Kyle Connor for some time, and now Connor's actually back. I mean, could you imagine now bringing back your best player and your best goal scorer as well to go into that? And while he's been out, guys like Ehlers and Perfetti have actually grown. They've actually stepped up into their roles. So now Winnipeg all of a sudden is a very dangerous team from top to bottom. I really like Winnipeg.
Toast, any final thoughts as we went 32 and 32 here? We're right at the just over the hour mark, so we're going to finish things up here. Any final thoughts for tonight?
Yeah, final thoughts are I'm gonna go ahead and make 3 drinks next time and line them all up here because A, I've been talking a lot. 2, I'm actually parched, and 1 drink's not gonna do it. But other than that, JT, I kind of like us doing this format. What I think we'll do is maybe once every 4 or 5 weeks, it's time to reset. It's time to kind of talk about where the teams are, and we may just go ahead and do this 32 in 32. Well, that didn't work out. It's not in 32 minutes. That didn't work out at all. We did 32.
I think you were pretty good about doing 32 and 32. I threw in the extra, and I think that extended the time. So
JT, I need you. So what we're going to do is we're going to find out a nice name for this, but nevertheless, we can't say 32 thoughts because that would actually.
I like to call it the quick hitters. We can call it the quick hitters. Something like
rapid
that.
Fire. Yeah, something like
fire.
that. We'll figure it out. Something to call something nifty, but where we cover every 32 teams, maybe every 4 or 5 weeks, and I think that would be a good format. So this has been really, really fun.
Yeah, everybody check out Toast Clark on the X. Toast Clark. Make sure you check out Toast Takes. His gambling takes every night for the most part when there's games. A few nights we're not putting anything together, but just get on there and take it out. Look at that Toast Clark. On the X, you can also look at the JT Brew Stew at JT Brew Stew on the X is the home of the Stew with JT Brew. So we always post the Toast Takes on there. You can always check out my page at JT Orange, talking hockey. I always talk a ton of football as well. So you can always get on there and talk to me about either one of those things. Give us a like and a follow on those. Make sure to check out the show, the Stew with JT Brew. Hit us up. Subscribe, jump on during the live sessions on YouTube. Give us your comments, give us your takes, anything you want to talk about. We'd love to hear from you guys and anything you want us to discuss. So we appreciate it. Thanks to Bryan Toast Clark for joining me. I'm Justin Taylor. JT, this has been The Stew with JT Brew. We'll check you guys next time.
You up on trades and why you move? You ain't designed to lose. Find you jumping over seemingly nothing, racking up points, makes the game a little more fun to watch. Can drop release. We started with the mock draft and now we make